Hey guys, happy Thursday. I got a good video for you here today. This is going to be video number 1 for today. I have another video I'm going to do today. I'm not sure when it's going to post, but I'm going to address something with our good friend Mr. Ted Cook. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of things I'm giving away. These new sweatshirts, these are hot off the presses. I just got them. I already gave one to my buddy at the local gas station that I always talk to, but I'm going to give out one to a couple other gentlemen here on YouTube. And then when I ship these out, I'm going to be shipping out a that tubing bender kit that I gave away. So all that stuff's going to get shipped out before this weekend. So anyway, let's watch this video, and then I will link the other video in the description.
So Richard, this is the air conditioning unit.
Alrighty, let's see what you got. Gas-fired furnace for heating right here. You've got the return comes back from the building right here, comes up through the furnace. There's a blower that's going to push it through the furnace to be heated, but the air can also come across this.
So right off the bat, I see some pretty glaring problems here. One of them being that filter that they have in there, plus the way that return's tied in. So it's just kind of panned with a 1-inch filter wedged in there. There's some high static there, so I would have mentioned that right off the bat. And then also we'll get to the other part here, but the supply duct there just deadheads right off the coil, which is tons of air turbulence and adds a lot of static. So let's see what Rich has to say here.
Across this box right here for cooling, there's a cooling coil here. The air goes up into this box at the top called a plenum, and right here are the supply ducts that go out to all the individual registers. That's how it's supposed to work. What's going on with yours?
Well, during the summertime, I turn it on, and the system runs for about an hour,
Okay.
and then it stops working. So I come down here to check it out,
Yeah.
and I notice that this is all frozen up.
Okay.
So it's pretty obvious by looking at that you know, they retrofitted the AC in after, and that coil's not put in properly. It's not the same width as the furnace, and then in doing so, you can tell they reconfigured some of that ductwork, because originally it was most likely metal rigid duct, and then there you see the flex tapping off now. So it was a total redo. It looks like they just scabbed it in though.
That's actually starting to form ice right now. So that's on the line sets that go to outside, and I imagine on the coil too. All right, so what do you do? Anything?
I actually turn on the heat for about 5 minutes.
You turn on the heat to get air conditioning? What happens then?
Well, it melts the coil inside of here, but the problem with that is I get water all over my basement floor.
And we get another hour cooling, and then you freeze again?
Yep.
All right. So anytime I hear about this condition, a frozen coil, first and foremost, I think about a lack of airflow through the unit. So here's the return air. And on anybody...
So we're going to soon find out that it is the wrong size of air conditioner that they put in this house, but he should have addressed this ductwork first and as well after what he does here. So let's continue on.
On anybody's furnace or AC unit, there's got to be some sort of filter like this. So this is a return air filter, and this thing is relatively simple, but it's got to be clean. Now that isn't perfectly clean, but it's not terrible. You change this?
All the time.
Okay. So if it's not...
See just that round dirt ring on that filter. So it's only filtering through that the way they tap that in. It's not dispersing across the filter properly. That's not what you want.
Something simple like the return air filter clogged, you got to look at some other things and do a deeper evaluation. I want to check the ducts, the size and number of these ducts, and also what you have for equipment.
So it looks like there's a motorized damper on that one of those supply runs. So I don't know if it's zoned or what's going on here. they didn't get into any of that, so there might be an issue there too. Not sure what he's writing down, just the size of the ducts here, whatever.
Alright, let me show you what I found.
Wow.
You were not kidding about a frozen coil. This is just a big block of ice. This is called an evaporator coil. They also called it an A coil because of its shape.
I'm sorry about the echoing on this video too. I don't know why it's doing that for this one, but it's still watchable.
So air is blown across and through this coil. Now this, you can see the coils right here, and there's also fins in here the air blows across. The coils are filled with refrigerant. So now when the warm air goes across, any heat that's in the air gets absorbed in the refrigerant that's inside of these coils right here, and it gets transferred through this line right here to outside. It goes through the compressor outside and through the outdoor condenser, and now it comes back really cold right here. In your case, it's way too cold. And now it's freezing this whole coil. Once this thing...
And that's a good view of that plenum right there. See the supply plenum off the top of the coil? You know, if you're going to do a system like this in your basement and add AC to it, you should, what they should have done is they should have done the whole system and replaced that furnace. They'd have gained themselves another 7 inches because the new furnace would be 33 inches tall, and the one that's there existing looks like it's 40 inches. I don't know. Rich is pretty short, so maybe that is a 33. I'm not sure. But it looks like he has some sort of zoning. See that panel there that's mounted, which you should never mount a zoning panel to an evaporator coil, but they did. But he's got some sort of zoning on this as well, which they did not address. And that needs to be addressed as well, because very few companies do zoning properly.
thing freezes, no longer can that air even get through those fins. Exactly what happened to you will happen.
So what would cause this?
Well, I think I know what the answer is, but let's check one more thing outside. So the other part of your air conditioning system is out here, the condenser. Now you remember there was those refrigerant lines as we capture the heat, bring it out to here, and then with this fan we dump the heat to outside. Now we always measure air conditioning equipment in terms of tons.
Tons, that sounds heavy.
Well, it's not actually a unit of weight, it's a unit of energy. Now it goes back a long time. There was a time in this country that the way we conditioned a building or stored food.
You guys ever seen those old videos where the big Clydesdale horses are pulling those big ice blocks? This is what he's talking about here.
Safely was with ice. Every local town would have an ice house that stored ice all through the year. And what it was a measure of how much cooling power could you get out of what? 2,000 pounds, a ton of ice. Now the modern refrigeration industry borrowed that term. And nowadays we think in terms of 12,000 BTUs is a ton of cooling. All right, so let's see what you got here. You have a 4-ton system.
4 tons, is that a lot?
Well, the amount of cooling power you need is a function of the load of the building, and there's some variables. How much insulation is inside the walls? What type of windows? Are there storm windows? How big is the building? And where's the building? How hot does it get on the hottest day of the year? I'll tell you, a rule of thumb for me around here with a building like this, I would expect to see a ton of cooling needed for every 500 to 600 square feet. Now, how big is this house?
Wow, mine's only 1,300.
I'm hoping that they actually did the real calculations instead of doing these rule of thumb things. 500 square feet per ton. That's a rule of thumb that a lot of hacks use. So let's see what they end up doing here.
1,300. There's a chance we needed only like a 2.5 ton. This is a 4. Now you ordered the system originally, right?
Yeah, the guy that put it in said it would be plenty big.
Plenty big. We hear this all the time. Oversizing is one of the biggest issues in air conditioning because if you're too big, it just doesn't work. It'll freeze up like yours did. We want to make sure the size of this unit is just right for the hottest day of the year and no more. And in this case, we're way too big.
Well, now what should we do?
Well, we can put an addition on it, about 1,500 square foot addition on the back.
I think the wife would like that.
We got to think about what we can do today. And I think today what we're going to do is make this equipment go away, put the right size stuff in. And that's a pretty big job. When you're working with air conditioning, you have to deal with refrigerant. Now, refrigerant is sometimes a liquid, sometimes it's a gas. What you never want to do, though, is to release it to atmosphere. So you always have to be a licensed...
Or you can use a nice Home Depot 5-gallon bucket to recover your refrigerant into. Or if you live closer to a Lowe's bucket works just fine too.
refrigeration technician to work with. That's what Keith is. Hey, Keith.
You doing, Rich?
Thanks for helping us. So what have you done so far?
So far, what we're doing is we're covering all this refrigerant out of this particular unit using a recovery machine.
And I never understood why these HVAC companies get white shirts. You know, the work that we do is really dirty. That's why I have a bunch of black uniforms and sweatshirts, and I only wear black pants when I'm working because I don't want to wear something that shows how dirty I am and you look like a bum. You don't wear white shirts when you're doing HVAC, for crying out loud.
So sort of a giant vacuum pump?
Exactly. And then afterwards it gets stored into this recovery cylinder.
How long will it take to suck all the refrigerant out of this condenser into that
He looks like an ice cream man.
canister?
Out of this particular unit, 20 minutes to a half hour, or until both of these gauges are at 0.
Pressure gauge. All right, you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
With all the refrigerant gone, we can now remove the old unit. Keith will cut the copper line sets, disconnect the electrical, and remove the old unit. Here's our new 3-ton condenser. Good, down. All right, let's just slide this on.
So it looks like they went with a 3-ton. Interesting when he said 2.5 might do it. This is why he should have done a heat load. Now, I'm not a big fan of heat loads really anymore, especially with variable capacity equipment, which when they filmed this, I know they had it. So I'd have done a 3-ton unit that was variable capacity, and that probably would have worked fine. I still would have done a heat loss on it, though. Heat loss, heat gain analysis. But just to get me in the right ballpark. But with I've said it many times, with the variable capacity equipment, it's not as critical to have an exact heat load for what equates to 2 or 3% of the year as far as outdoor temperatures.
All right, with that in place, now we just have to remake our connections. All right, we got the connections made on your new condenser outside. Now we have to think about inside. We got to get rid of this old coil and put a new one in. And the important thing is that this has to be the same size tonnage as the outdoor. 3-ton, 3-ton. So this is your new evaporator coil right here. And it's going to start by getting the old lines cut away so we can get rid of the old coil. Good. All right, so now with the lines cut, we just got to do whatever we got to do to get rid of this connection right here.
Yeah, you can tell the guys that installed that air conditioner were big hacks. They just kind of hacked it in the best they could. And I'll bet you they chose a 4-ton because they probably had that sitting in their shop. Most likely. Just speculation.
All right, good. Why don't you come right to here? Let's see if we can muscle this out of the way. You can't.
Look at that coil sits on there, man. I mean, there's like a couple inches on either side of it that aren't even on the in the airstream. Just you can get away with that with an A coil, and it won't ice up on you if it's sized right. But come on, guys.
Be careful. There's sharp edges on this metal. Okay. Wait, careful. Work with me. Okay, I got it. You stay clear, it's sharp. I'll drop it right down. Bye-bye, 4-ton. All right, so let's get this one into position. All right, so come here. So now we're going to actually turn this thing. Whoops. Good. Okay, let me just check that. All right, I'm going to lift this up a little bit, and I just want to come just a little bit. Push. Good. There we go. Good. Awesome. All right, now we just got to reconnect the ductwork. Sharp edges. Down we come. Let me just pry this out a little tiny bit. Now we just need to cut a nice little piece of sheet metal to seal it up tight.
It's the kind of scab job that a lot of guys would do on a Friday afternoon, and it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Just got back from lunch. Let's bust it out. Not a quality job. I expect better from this old house. What they should have done here on this supply is they should have taken all the runs off and put a nice radius fitting on top, and then just have everything tap off equally, and then add about 12 to 18 inches of duct past your last run for back pressure, and the airflow would be a lot better. Be a lot better on the static too.
It'll be good. Keep this brazing with proper connections to the line sets. Brazing is a lot like soldering, but it can take the extraordinary pressures that come with refrigeration.
Wonder if he flowed nitro. What are the odds? I'm guessing about 25% chance.
So Tim, we've been busy down here. We've got the new coil secured to the furnace with sheet metal screws at the bottom and at the top all the way around. We've sealed it really well with this foil tape with a sealant on the back. We want to make sure there's no air that leaks out into the room.
Nice.
Okay. Here's the line sets, the new line sets connected. They've been brazed. And then the suction line, the line that gets colder, has actually been insulated so it doesn't drip anything on the floor. Right here you can see the PVC connection to the condensate drain, which is right down at the bottom. Anytime we air condition, the air comes by that coil and we make the air cold, but one of the byproducts is all the humidity has to have a place to go. It turns into what they call condensate.
Okay.
It comes down through here, through a trap, down into this reservoir right here. There's a little float in there. When the water level rises, the float comes on, brings on a pump, and sends that water out to the drain over there. Now it runs on 110 volts, and Keith, you were working on that, right?
Yeah, everything's all tied in over here.
Good.
So a couple things they could have done while they had this all taken apart. Obviously, they should have done something with the secondary drain. They should have put a safety on it, so if that primary clogs up or if the pump fails, they don't flood out the system, especially with the furnace sitting underneath that coil. You need to have some protection there. And then there should be a safety, a 24-volt safety in that condensate pump. So if it fails, it's not going to overflow the pump and flood out the basement there, because I see there are doors and stuff there that are low. They probably have stuff sitting on the ground they don't want to get wet, and they could come home to a flooded basement at some point, or at least a good stream of water. So just a couple things I noticed.
So how do we get the right amount of refrigerant into this new system?
Well, the new condensers that we install now, they all come pre-charged up to 25 feet of line set.
And that's about what we have. So there's enough refrigerant in to cover our system perfectly without adding any more.
That's exactly
Right.
right. What I had to do, I had to evacuate the lines, and after that,
Back when they used to give you 25 feet of refrigerant for your systems, now we're lucky if we get 15. And a lot of them are not charged fully. I've seen it many times.
and after they're evacuated, all I have to do is just open up the lines on the condenser, and it's pre-charged.
Right, so we're good to go?
That's it.
All right,
Ready
we're
to
going to
go.
flip on the switch.
Here we go.
That's a good sound, isn't it?
That sounds good.
Does that
I love that
video?
sound.
And then an hour from now, it freezes back up. So let's do a little summary here. I'll tell you my thoughts on this job in its entirety. All right, so if you're going to go through all that trouble, you're going to replace equipment because the system's icing up, you need to address other things that are going on with the system. You know, I mentioned them in the video. Address the return, which sucks the way they did it. Address that supply that deadheads. Make a better transition there. Lower the static on the supplies and the returns. And I mean, on a house that size, 1,300 square feet, it looked bigger than that to me. It had a second floor, so I think maybe they're full of it. But you know, with a couple improvements, and you know, maybe recommend some other weatherization things to them. They could have got away with a 2-ton system, so they're spending less on their utility bills. But You know, this is a real miss on this video. There's a bunch of stuff they should have done as far as you know, putting safeties in for the condensate, and then you know, addressing the things I already talked about. So I give this video an F. And if you're a homeowner watching the video, if you've seen this video, don't take their advice with too much water. Take it with a grain of salt, and hire a local pro that you trust. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one.